This video is the third video in the series on Jewish core beliefs. All right, and this one focuses on the Torah. And the type of questions you could be asked here are describing or explaining how the Torah is used in the synagogue, and you could also be asked about to explain the importance. Now, what I've done for you and how we studied this is we've tried to make these answers as close and similar as possible because there's a lot of crossover between them. Okay. What I will say to you is that when it comes to your revision, you need to make sure that in your sentence starters that you are fully answering the question. You are using the right sentence starter for the right question. So, the first thing, if we are describing how the Torah is used in the synagogue, well, the first thing is, quite simply, it is read from. Okay, it is read from as it's the word of God. All right, so therefore, it's seen as a central part of the Jewish service, that it obviously is part of each one. It's taken to the bema, all right? It's seen as a great honor to read from it, all right? So that's the first thing of how it's used. The second one is that the Torah is used in synagogue as a guide to lead a good Jewish life, all right? And the reason for that is that it contains obviously the 613 mitzvot, and at the same time, all right, that obviously the 10 commandments form part of that, and for that reason, that is why it is there's a reading from it, or there's teachings about it in the service. Now remember, you've got to make sure that you say that. You've got to get that little bit in there, okay, about that. If you say it's a guide for holy life, but okay, how it's used? Well, it's used to get this message across by being read from. Okay, now the next one is that the Torah is used in synagogue to help Jews understand the nature of God. All right, and the reason for that is, or the way in which this is done in the synagogue, is that the rabbi teaches, okay, about the reading from the Torah. All right, so it's read from, and then there we go, it's taught about afterwards by the rabbi. The next one is used to guide prayer in the synagogue, and the reason for that is that it contains many prayers, such as the Shema, all right, but also it can give a focus, if you want, to the type of prayers that are made. So if it was a reading, I don't know, let's just say that it was a reading of the creation story, okay, that the type of prayers that some Jews may be focusing on, all right, is sort of, again, worship to God, or simply of thanksgiving. They may wish to make a prayer of thanksgiving to God for this. So it helps to focus Jewish prayer. The next one is that how it's treated is treated with a great deal of respect. All right, and the reason for that is the Torah scrolls are dressed, that a yad is used to read from it, so the Torah scrolls are not touched, etc., etc. The final one is the fact that it is used for study at the synagogue. All right, and remember the community role, that it has a sort of that there are Bible study classes that take place at the synagogue. Okay, so you can say about how the Torah is used for that. Now, you could get asked, as I said, to explain the importance of the Torah, and what I've done is I've tried to make those answers as close as possible. So the first one, the Torah is important to Jews as it is the word of God. All right, and the reason for that is that they believe that what's in there helps to unlock Judaism unlock Judaism for them. All right, and what it actually means, right, in sort of plain English, is that it contains teaching on the nature of God, so it helps them to understand them a little bit more. It contains rules, all that sort of stuff, right? That it helps them to understand who God is and what He wants from us. Okay, so the result of that is that it's a central part of their faith, obviously, okay, and it's read from it at every Jewish service. Now, the next one, okay, the Torah is important as it contains rules to follow, be a good Jew. So it's a guide for living, all right? And this is because it contains the 613 mitzvahs, including the 10 commandments, blah, 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 blah. The impact of that for Jews is that they read it, they study it, they get taught about it by the rabbi, and then they go and follow them in their lives, okay? They follow those instructions. The next one is it helps them, as I said, to understand the nature of God, and the reason for that, it contains stories, teachings, etc. that tells about God. So if it was a creation story, it helps them to understand that that God is all-powerful and omniscient. Okay, so that sort of idea. Then, so the impact of that is that obviously you're saying the same thing. It's a central part of the service. The rabbi teaches about it. Jews understand it, can help sort of guide their prayer, all that sort of stuff. The next one is well, I've just mentioned their guide for prayer, and that's what the final point is that the Torah is important to Jews as it is used as a guide for prayer at the synagogue. And the reason for that is that it contains many prayers, all right, but also that when they hear the readings, it helps to focus their prayer. So if all the Shema, all right, this is in the Torah, so they can, obviously they use the Torah to be able to make that prayer, all right, it's a central prayer for them, but also that if they hear the reading about God's omnipotence, then they may, about the creation story, to use that example again, that they may want to make a prayer of thanksgiving towards God. All right, so to summarize it with the Torah, obviously it's centrally important, okay? And the ways in which it's used in the synagogue essentially is read, okay, and then it's taught about afterwards, and it's used for study and education. All right, and the reasons for that, all those things, is the fact it's the word of God. It helps to guide what's called Jews in their lives. It contains rules to follow. It helps us to understand the nature of God. So it's all a lot of the same answers that we would be using in Catholicism, but we would be saying them about obviously the Bible, okay, and then the nature of God within that. We'd probably draw on about Jesus as well, okay, in those answers, but obviously Jews we wouldn't. Okay, so that concludes the video on the Torah.